Good afternoon and welcome to Today on Bay TV. We are live in Swansea on Tuesday the 30th of May 2017. I'm Henry Darby Cook and this is Gaynor Morgan.
And we've been joined by the Right Reverend Joanna Penberthy, the Bishop of St David's, and also by Robert Llewellyn-Jones.
Before we have a look at what happened on this day, let's have some music from Georgia May Evans.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometime, I want to spend some time with you, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us, just the two of us. Just the two of us, building them castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I. We look for love, no time for tears. Wasted water's all it is. It don't make no flowers grow. Good things might come to those who wait, not for those who wait too late. We gotta go for all we know. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building them castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I hear the crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall. It becomes a morning dew. I see the morning sun, I wanna be the one with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building them castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I. Just the two of us.
What a lovely way to start the show. Well, we're going to be hearing more from Georgia May later in the programme. Meanwhile, Henry, what happened on this day in history?
Yeah, we've got a huge amount as always. We're going to start with a little sad one, to be honest. Former Blue Peter presenter John Noakes died over the weekend at the age of 83. Obviously, such a key role, I think, in so many households, Blue Peter, and obviously his role on Blue Peter. So before I go on to this information, I think we've got a great clip to remember him.
Oh, get off me foot! Naughty! Oh, thanks very much. Well, our animals aren't going to be happy, in fact, because they're going away on holiday too. They're going to spend it out in the country, but Lulu won't be there. Oh, dear.
Not bad at all.
Boy, he's good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got hold of that pretty good.
I was really scared. It took all my nerve to pick the moment and let go.
From the ladder with nothing at all beneath me.
You told me there was overhang, but you didn't tell me it leant to one side. It's Blue Peter to Christmas. So, who shall we start with? Me? Oh, look at that. There's a bloody dog. Chef, get out! Get up, Skip. Get up. Well, it's better than get down, Chef, isn't it?
And listen, John, he can't have much trouble with his ligaments skipping on the table.
Come on, get lively. Come on, Petra.
You hang on to Chef.
Come on, hang on to Chef. Come on. A bit too thick. He's a failure as a sheep.
Wow.
Very popular, wasn't he? Would you remember him, Bishop?
Oh, yes, he was a very important part of my childhood. He was my favourite presenter, I think.
Oh,
he was
was he?
always so warm and joyful and funny. Yes, he was great. Very sad.
What about you, Robert? You'd have been...
Well, I thought Henry would have worn his Blue Peter badge today, to be honest with you. You know, I'm sure he was a great devotee.
Well, this is actually a great talking point because did any of you guys ever get the Blue Peter badge? Were you lucky enough?
Well, I didn't watch much television because I was living on a farm and I was the eldest child, so you're always out. So, no, I haven't got any Blue Peter badges, sorry.
No, neither me.
No? They're very elusive. We've been trying to get one over the weekend and get one this morning, and then we kind of put out a plea to our viewers: has anybody got one? We'd love to hear the story of how you got one. And no one replied. So I think they were quite an exclusive thing to have, the Blue Peter badge.
They
And
still do them, don't they?
yeah, I think it's not as popular as it was, but Blue Peter still exists and is still going. Did you ever make the Tracy Island or... Well, Robert, did you?
Please, Henry.
Moving on, it was a big day for the Swans, the football team, on this day. In 2011, the Football League Championship playoff final was held at Wembley, and it was Swansea City versus Reading, and this was for whoever won to enter the Premier League. We've got a little clip.
So was that the start of the sort of modern era of the Swans being so...
It was a key point in it, and obviously 6 years ago today, they haven't gone back. They're still in the Premier League. They've done another season where they're staying up.
It's been a nail-biter this year, though, hasn't it?
Indeed, Gaynor, indeed.
Are you a fan?
I'm more of the other shape ball.
You enjoy your rugby?
Yeah.
You can always tell someone who's been brought up properly.
But we have to say that soccer and football and the Swans is just so fantastic.
It is.
For the well-being of us all in Swansea, but also for the economy, isn't it? You
Absolutely,
know, it's great.
Very important.
Yeah, and especially when we're in difficult times, it does
Exactly.
really cheer you
It's
up.
nice to have somebody to cheer for, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
It
lovely,
is.
yeah.
Moving on, 1896, the first car accident occurred. Henry Wells hit a cyclist in New York City. This is, really interesting to think there was a time where there weren't any car accidents because there weren't any
Well, when were
cars.
the first cars? Yeah, but when they had the first cars, didn't they have someone running ahead with a flag,
With a
waving a
red
pole with a
flag.
flag? It was a red flag, was it? Yes, just in case to warn people to get out of the way. Yeah.
So what you have to understand about this is obviously bicycles were hugely popular in the 1890s, especially in Manhattan and in New York, where cars, motor vehicles, were kind of few and far between for the ultras, if you will. And he hit a cyclist, and the rest is history. And it's documented as the first ever car accident in history.
Do we know what was the outcome? Was the person just injured, or?
So he was just injured. It was the wagon. They kind of guessed that it wasn't going very fast at all.
Probably got to his feet and shot the cyclist, didn't he?
It's interesting because nowadays there's such a lot of controversy about cyclists and cars, and there can be a lot of controversy about that. But there are an awful lot, tragically, of car accidents. But when we were reliant on horses, a lot of people were killed and injured with horses. So you wonder what the sort of statistics are pro rata. But
You keep yours secluded in a field at the back. I know where yours is, don't worry.
Moving on, 1913, a new country of Albania forms, declaring itself independent from the Ottoman Empire. Robert, do you want to talk to us about...
I didn't remember that, no.
No, I know you don't remember.
I wasn't around there.
But quite important for
until
a nation
recently,
and an
Albania
era.
has been a closed country.
yes, I can remember going to Corfu on one of my very few foreign holidays, and you could just see Albania from the north tip of Corfu. And in those days, 30, 40 years ago, it was such a contrast between, I suppose, the free world, and you could hear the
They had a
dogs
man called
barking.
Hoxha there. He was in charge for years and years and years, and it was a...
It was the worst of the communist states,
Yes,
wasn't it?
that's
So
right.
very
Yes,
close.
yes. And of course, Philby betrayed a party of British agents that was sent in to the country, and
We're going to have to stop
Well,
there.
thank you very much anyway.
both.
So next we're going to be looking at today's papers with the Right Reverend Joanne Penberthy. Robert also. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. With me is Henry Darby Cook. The Right Reverend Joanna Penbercy, the Bishop of St David's, is with us, and Robert Llewellyn-Jones is still with us. Thank you both.
We're going to start by looking at the Times. There's a really nice photograph on the front of the Times of the Cambridges in their garden in Norfolk. Wills and Kate recently did an interview with GQ magazine, and this is some of the photographs that are kind of coming out of this interview. And, you know, we can't say they lead a normal life, but this is maybe the closest thing to normality for Kate and Wills and the dog and the two children. But yet you see, you know, the big wall at the back of that garden for security reasons. After the week we've had in Britain, I think it's something quite nice to see the royals kind of being able to relax somewhat.
Just be natural.
Yeah.
It's a charming picture and good role models for family life, Bishop.
Yes.
Robert, what are your thoughts on
You don't look
kind of-
impressed, I have to say.
Well, I can't understand why you call him Wills. His name is William.
Prince William.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's a nickname that a lot of people do call him Wills.
I'm
and
not
Kate,
sure
no?
that the mystique of monarchy is preserved by people calling others by some sort of corrupted name like Wills.
That's fair.
You know,
again,
he's
is it
the Duke. Call him the Duke of Cambridge.
Okay. Yeah.
So how are you going to address the Bishop?
Well,
You're caught by your own.
I think I'd say Bishop would be quite. I'd like to be able to say my Lord Bishop, but there we are. I don't think that would be.
the formal address.
Yes, I'm technically the Lord Bishop of St David's, but mercifully nobody does call me my Lord, yes.
This was actually
that's something else that's fallen by the wayside. You see that, the American ambassador, with whom I had a slight tiff on one occasion,
As you do.
they want to be called Mr. Ambassador. So I insisted on calling him Your Excellency, which was
What we do.
which is the correct way to address
How
him.
did he react?
I wasn't interested. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. And I asked him if we could have a Welsh consul, and he said no.
Oh.
So,
I think we perhaps should move on.
Yeah, well,
we have the State Department here.
We're sticking with the Times to look at, obviously, BA as well. A huge amount of people have been affected by BA's disruption over the weekend. BA have now been accused of profiting from trapped passengers, where some passengers, if they wanted to buy a spare seat, charged upwards of £800. If you wanted to switch airlines, upwards of £1,600. To call BA to do this, it was 5p a minute. 55p a minute charges, and nearly 25,000 people were affected and had to do one of these three things to
Great
try
PR.
and,
And with the hotels charging £1,000 a
Well,
night.
of course they do, don't they? I mean, you remember that wonderful case when the Grand National was postponed because of an IRA bomb, and it had to be run on the Sunday. And the owners of I believe it was the Adelphi Hotel, I'm not certain, charged people who had booked out to their rooms, and they charged them something like £50 or £60 for a mattress to put on the floor.
There's no
Now, if
excuse
that
for that
isn't
kind of
profit-
behaviour.
And
is
it's
there?
in stark contrast, isn't it, to the taxi drivers and others in Manchester who offer their services and their homes free.
Absolutely, a real
You know,
good
and-
example.
And I think that's the problem when we get into some of these global entities. Bishop, do we lose humanity? in
Yes,
it?
we lose the sense that it's actually all about real people at the end of the day. And yes, BA can charge a good price for the service when it's well delivered, but they shouldn't be adding things on top just to make their bottom line look better.
Well, hotel rooms in Swansea on the back of this match this week. Isn't it?
Yeah, Saturday.
I mean, there was an article somewhere that one hotel here were charging £4,000 a night.
That's slightly different because people can choose, can't they? And they can always come to a bed and breakfast.
That's the thing they have to remember. These
But
people
it's
have already paid for their
It's the
flights.
idea of
They're-
profiteering,
Yes,
Gaynor, isn't it?
it is.
It's profiteering out of something.
Out of a
But
misfortune.
to get back to the issue surrounding BA, it appears to be because the IT has been outsourced.
Yeah, so the BA chief, he refuses to quit or blame his cost cuttings for the flight fiasco. And is there a Welsh link, Robert? Were you
Well,
just telling us?
it's Tata Capital are the computer company involved. And they, of course, have an office, if not offices, in Wales.
And is this the same family as Port Talbot Steelworks?
Well, of course, it's a subsidiary of the Tata Empire.
So again, we seem to be outsourcing our lifeblood in a sense.
Yes,
Bishop,
yes.
do you have any
Well,
feelings
it's,
about this?
the bottom line is the only important thing, not the quality of the service.
I sometimes wonder, what's all this money saving for? You know, who's benefiting in the end?
Or the shareholders.
Oh, that's very succinctly put, Bishop, yes.
What I think is very interesting is, because we saw it last week or the week before with the NHS, then their computer system going down, now with BA, is how much they rely upon
I think it's
the computers,
terrifying.
and that
It's
there
absolutely
isn't this
terrifying.
kind of fallback to still get people through the gates. I mean, what happened before computers? That's
As far as we know, so far, it's only inconvenience. I say only. These people who are trying to go on holiday work very hard, often in very, very stressful jobs, but it has only been inconvenience. You know, lives can be at risk, can't
Absolutely, and it's therefore the importance of these services having to run properly.
Moving on, we've got to talk about the tiger that killed a zookeeper.
Oh, that's terrible.
It is really sad. Her mother's just released a statement actually saying she died doing what she loved. She was adored these tigers, and I think it was kind of a very... I don't think anyone's 100% sure what happened, but it was a freak accident, to say the least, and where the tiger has turned on her and mauled her to death, sadly. Families were at the zoo in Norfolk, I believe.
Cambridgeshire, I think it was.
Yeah, Cambridge.
But you can never completely trust any animal, I always feel.
No. No, we have to be careful. They are wild animals at the end of the day, out of their normal environment.
Of course, it's provoked a lot of discussion among, I think, PETA, the Animal Rights Organisation, and a few others, saying that these animals shouldn't be cooped up and that they do become depressed and
Oh,
aggressive.
but if you let them out in the wild, you see, they kill them then. Poachers want... Look what they do to the rhino.
And if animals have been kept in
and
captivity...
the elephant, animals that we knew in our childhood are now facing, in many cases, are near the point of extinction.
And all that we blindly think that we can go and see them in the wild, as it were, there are an awful lot of families that simply can't afford to, and this would be the only chance of children and young people actually seeing them, I would have thought. But a terribly tragic case.
It is.
Just
moving on, we're going to go to The Guardian next. Last night we had the closest thing I think you can call to a TV debate, where neither of the leaders of the two main parties actually saw each other. This is Jeremy Corbyn tells Jeremy Paxman, "I'm no dictator," in TV debate. But yeah, like I just touched on, it was two separate interviews that were kind of cut together to kind of...
Nobody came out of it well, did they?
No, even Jeremy Paxman didn't come out of it well, because he was trying to be devil's advocate, asking the questions that he thought maybe Corbyn or May would ask, but obviously he then looks like he's asking to try and trip people up. So,
Yes, I think the Prime Minister wouldn't debate, and therefore I think Jeremy Corbyn would have gone head-to-head, but the Prime Minister, for whatever reason, wouldn't do it. So Jeremy Paxman had to be the person in between.
Yes. How do you feel when these people want to be Prime Minister, they want to lead the country, and yet they won't engage in a debate?
And they should do, shouldn't they? They should answer people's questions. They should be open for their policies to be scrutinised and the questions asked, because that's our only chance, isn't it, through the media. Most of us don't get the chance to talk to them, so they should be open to a public forum like
Somebody
this.
was interviewed and asked what they thought about Corbyn, and they said, oh, he'd improved, he'd had his haircut. You know, people can be very flippant, you know. He'd upped his game a bit. Robert, what was your take on it?
Well, I didn't watch it.
No.
I didn't watch it because I just didn't want to be bothered.
Really have that
we
privilege.
have incessant. Don't you find, Bishop? This is incessant. Every day it's the general election.
It is so important, though.
It is absolutely.
That's
But you know,
natural,
the time when
yeah.
you become saturated and you don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore. I've made my mind up, and I think I've seen enough now to know what I'm going to.
I think the problem is that so many of the responses are so structured and rehearsed on all sides, really.
Yes, and what you want is people to be honest, don't you? Not to say what they think people want to hear, but actually explain their policies, explain how they're costed, and what the impact will be, particularly for the most vulnerable. I think that's what people need and want to hear.
I've interviewed politicians in my time, and I think they're becoming much less responsive and much less able even to respond to a tricky question than they were.
I think Jeremy Corbyn is going out and meeting people and actually having big rallies in the old-fashioned... He's doing politics the old-fashioned way.
And really having a great response, I think.
Yes, I think he is, yes.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Bishop, when you say people want to they want to feel that in a politician there is somebody that they can relate to and someone who actually does
And who
believe
is going
in
to
what
respond.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll leave it there for the moment.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you both.
Next, we're staying with both the Right Rev Joanna Penberthy, and Robert's also going to be staying with us. Welcome back to Today on Base TV. I'm Henry Darby Cook. This is Gaynor Morgan. We're still with the Right Reverend Joanna Penberthy, the Bishop of St David's, and Robert Llewellyn-Jones is still with us.
Bishop Joanna, the first lady bishop? Do you call
Woman
it
bishop, yes.
Woman bishop. Woman bishop in Wales. Quite an achievement. Was it a fight?
Well, getting to the point where women were able to be elected as bishops was a fight, yes. But obviously in the election itself, it was the best person for the particular job.
And that clearly was you. Well, I think we can actually see would it have been a ceremony?
Yeah.
See a clip of the ceremony. Without dwelling too much on the politics of the church, why was it such a fight? Because we had bishops in England before we had bishops in Wales.
Yes, only
right?
just, yes. Both the Church in Wales is separate from the Church of England, and both churches have their own legislative bodies who have to make these decisions, and it's a matter of persuading, just like getting a measure through the House of Commons, you have to get the measure through the governing body of the Church in Wales, and not everybody agrees, and it has to be talked about, and it took a long time to actually get.
Why did we lag
through.
behind? Because in a sense we were ahead of England in the sense in that we were devolved, weren't we? The Church in Wales was sort of devolved in 1920.
Yes, we were ahead of the Church of England in making women deacons. The Anglican Church has 3 orders, deacon, priest and bishop. We were ahead of the Church of England in allowing women to be deacons, but slightly behind on priests and bishops. But it was only a matter of a couple of years.
What was the reluctance?
I think people are conservative within the church, and often some people have theological objections. Other people have just never seen it before, and once they've seen a woman acting in a particular role, they think, well, what was all the fuss about? Yeah.
I suppose it was quite groundbreaking, was it, to become a vicar in the first place?
Yes, it was, I think, yes. When I was training, there weren't very many women. I thought about 120 in the theological college I was at, and 10 of us were women. So, yes, it was groundbreaking at the time. Yeah.
And did you always want to be a vicar, or did you suddenly see a light?
Well, I didn't see a light, but I did have. I went just to visit with my parents to Winchester Cathedral and sat in one of their lovely side chapels to pray. Now, I don't actually remember what happened, but I remember on the way back home knowing that God had called me to the ministry and feeling completely shocked because I didn't know whether it was possible for women to do that. So, yes,
That's
I had to have a
amazing.
calling experience at 16.
In my Catholic convent, we'd have called it a vocation. Anyway, does any of this relate to the life you
You
led?
had a sort of Winchester moment.
I had a Winchester moment, I did. Yeah.
Does that...
Of course, yeah. I respect people's beliefs, and I think it's really important to believe in something. And it's I think it's weird, isn't it? Because we're in this day and age, especially in the light of what's happened in Manchester, where religion comes under a huge amount of scrutiny, and where people will question actually the need for it.
And where is God?
Well, exactly, and I think anybody who gives simplistic answers about where God was at that terrible night
I
is
think
wrong.
we all asked it, in fairness. A lot of us were asking, was God?
The question is a really important question, but I think there aren't any easy answers to it because it was an appalling tragedy. And let's face it, it's not the only appalling tragedy in our world. People do appalling things to one another. And I suppose from my own personal perspective as a Christian, I haven't got answers as to explain why God allows it to happen, but I believe that in Jesus, he dying for us, experienced the worst that human beings can do to one another. And through God sending his Holy Spirit, we're given the resources to live better lives, to make a difference for the better rather than for making a difference for the worse. Unfortunately, religion, which can, in all its guises, be a force for good, is often also a force for evil because people are defensive about it and think they have to protect God in some way rather than simply live out a generous and a loving faith towards other
religion,
people.
of course, being very different from God.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, religion is invented by people.
Do you think the church is getting its message across today?
I think, quite rightly, people don't want just words. They want to see the message in action. And if we're really serious that God loves people, then the church has a duty to be out there putting that into practice. And when we do that, then people will perhaps listen to us. Yeah.
Are we still a Christian country?
Some people are. Some people have other faiths. Some people have none. I think we still are a society in which matters of ethics and morals matter. Otherwise, we wouldn't have such passionate political debates. I think we are a country where we want to find the right from the wrong. So although in many ways Christianity is changing its shape, I'm still hopeful because I think people do care. And that's the important thing. People care about one another and they can care about finding the right way to live together.
Now, you're a very sort of, can I say, hands-on bishop in terms of your involvement with some of the very pressing issues of our time. What do you feel are the biggest challenges facing you?
For me personally, I suppose because I'm the first woman bishop in Wales, soon to be joined by my sister in the See of Llandaff, but as the first people saying, oh, isn't it great that we finally got a woman bishop? And yes, it is. But for me, one of the sad things about our society is the prevalence of violence against women and the numbers of women in our society who are killed by their partners and the difficulty that women have of speaking out on that issue. So I think we've got a huge way to go. It's already all very well having women who are figureheads in professions, but until we've got the society where all women and girls are safe, we've still got a very long way to go.
And that often happens, of course, doesn't it? I think Mrs Thatcher, it was often said that she got to the top of the tree, but she didn't really pull anyone in behind her. Do you...
She pulled the ladder up.
Yeah. But do you actively try to encourage people in the ministry?
Well, I've only been a bishop for 6 months, but one of the things in the St David's Diocese, we have a charity, Plant Dewi, that works with families. And one of the things I'm doing with our social responsibility group and with our charity is to see how we can make, even in a small way, because we're just a small organisation, but what in a small way can we do to make a difference to people women who are suffering this kind of thing in their homes, to put it on the public sphere, but also to try and make a difference at local level. You know, it's people in your churches. There may be women in your communities who are suffering this. Can you be a lifeline for them? Can you enable them to have the courage to seek a different way to escape?
And of course, society is changing. The family pattern is breaking up. Is that the way you see it, or do we just assume that from the papers?
Society's always changed, and I think if we think there was ever one amazing model when it was all a golden age, we're kidding ourselves. And the way is how to find today a way in which we can bring up children securely and stably and encourage men and women, women and women to live together in a way that's resourcing themselves and to live a good life within the community. Yeah.
Do you see, talking about as you are, do you see the need for you to be a Welsh speaker? Because at the moment you are learning Welsh.
I'm learning Welsh, yes, because St David's Diocese is a very Welsh-speaking diocese, so absolutely. I mean, I did have parishes in North Carmarthenshire and was learning Welsh, but then I spent 5 years in England and then 18 months in Radnorshire, and it's very difficult to keep the language going if you're not practising it.
It's not the easiest language.
No, and I've got one of our retired priests who's coming and giving me Welsh lessons, so hopefully I will get over the hump and actually
So you just
properly.
touched on the diocese. It takes in Ceredigion?
Ceredigion, Carmarthenshire and Pembrokeshire.
It's a huge
area.
huge
A
area.
little bit of West Glamorgan, Gwaith Gadwyn, yeah.
And of course it's predominantly a rural diocese, isn't it?
Well, an area-wise, yes, but population-wise, no, most of our population live in the post-industrial, you know, the Amman Valleys and Llanelli and, yeah. So.
But there are challenges even in your own city of St David's. They're going for the City of Culture, head-to-head with Swansea. But perhaps more importantly, I think it's quite a fuss, isn't it, about the Premier Inn wanted to coming.
Yes.
That does seem to me a contradiction.
It does. I mean, and I've got nothing against Premier Inn. I've stayed in them, they're great. But certainly in a small place like St David's, when the rural economy, farming can't just rely on farming anymore, and so many of our farming community open their homes, bed and breakfast, I think it'll ruin small businesses in the area, and that will be to the detriment of the area. If people can't make a living in the area, then it won't be a place for tourists to come to.
And it is a pattern, isn't it? And if you have small businesses, the money tends to stay in the area.
Exactly, yeah.
Go to the dreaded smallhold. Is there anything, does the church play a role?
We're St David's Cathedral is a very important part of the life of St David's, and we have a festival on there at the moment. So, and there's still tickets going. So please do seek out that if you're in the area, what's happening in the cathedral over the next 10 days.
I was fortunate enough to go there on Christmas morning. I was struck, and I can't remember the figure, the amount of cost to run it per.
Oh, it's frightening. Yes.
Per day.
Yes, and we don't get any. It's all raised locally. There's no money coming from the government or anything. No, we pay for it all.
And a beautiful building. Well, thank you very much, Bishop Joanna. I think you're staying with us for the last part. I'm not sure about you, Robert, but we'll have plenty more to talk about
We do.
then. Yes?
Yeah, both Robert and the Right Rev is going to be staying with us, and we're going to have some more music from Georgia May Evans just round the corner. So
We look forward to hearing that and chatting a little bit more. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. This is Henry Darby Cook, and we still have the Right Reverend Joanna Penberthy with us, the Bishop of St David's. Thank you for staying with us, and also Robert Llewellyn-Jones.
Should we chat about the Archbishop of Wales and
right.
that topic? I think it's quite interesting at the moment, isn't it?
Some of the politics of the church.
Archbishop Barry retired in January. He retired both as the Archbishop and as the Bishop of Llandaff, because in Wales, it's not like in England where you have the Archbishop of Canterbury. In Wales, any of the 6 bishops can be the Archbishop of Wales. So when the current holder retires, first of all, you have to elect that bishop's successor in his diocese. So the Diocese of Llandaff had to have their bishop. And then once she, Bishop June, is enthroned as the Bishop of Llandaff, then there'll be another election, and one of the 6 bishops will be elected to be the Archbishop of Wales.
Are you putting your hat in the ring? Or your mitre in the ring?
Theoretically, June and I are both in the running, but I think it would be very unwise of anybody to elect people who'd only been bishops for 2 minutes when we have people of experience on the bench. So it'll be one of the other 4, yes.
But you must be quite battle-hardened, both of you.
We are, but it's about experience, isn't it? Our other 4 colleagues are rather more experienced than we are.
I noticed your mitre. Very, very plain, standing next to the Archbishop, who is...
When you're consecrated,
yes.
Bishops can only wear... If you're not in your own diocese, you can only wear a white mitre.
All right.
So obviously you're consecrated by the Archbishop in his or her diocese, so you have to be consecrated, you wear a white mitre, yeah. But I have got fancy ones.
And how would you like in your job? You went to Cambridge, didn't you?
I did,
so
yes.
clearly you would have climbed the ladder in whatever organisation you were in. Is it like being a chief executive or like being a prime minister?
Not quite, because although, yes, it is about the strategic planning for the future of the diocese, but it's also about, and the best bit of the job is being out there in the parishes, meeting people. I was at the 50th anniversary of a church yesterday, the rededication service, and then a tea afterwards. So although there is the strategy and the finance and the forward planning, but there's also meeting people in the local churches, which is great.
You don't lose sight of what you went into the church for.
No.
You mentioned the rededication of a church. I thought churches were sort of falling by the wayside, as it were.
We have 319 in our diocese, so they're all doing quite well.
Why
yes.
would you need to rededicate one?
Well, it wasn't a rededication, really. It was a celebration of 50 years, yes.
So is the church still, would you say, still the centre of the community?
In some of our places it is, yes. In some of our villages it's the only public building still open, and where the pubs have closed, the schools have closed, and where perhaps there wasn't a nonconformist chapel, the church is the only community building left, and so many of them are being reordered to make them spaces that are more usable. In towns, I think it's a different story, and there, in a sense, we have to not fight our corner, but we have to make our relevance by the way we live our lives, you know, because there are many more things for people to do at the weekend, and many more societies and many more people contributing to the general life. So we have to, in a sense, be more open about the way we react with people. But in our villages, sometimes we're the only people left.
And I think in some of these smaller villages, they alternate, don't they, which Sundays they're open.
Yes, exactly.
And what have you.
Yes.
You would never think of having a service in the pub, because in some villages...
People do, absolutely.
You've only got the pub left.
I started, when I was vicar of Llanssowel in Carmarthenshire, we started an Easter service, the night before Easter, we started the service in the pub. Yeah, we did, yeah.
What's the line where one or more of you are gathered?
When one or two are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst
Yeah,
of...
so it doesn't really
the church
matter.
building is just an invention of people. Yeah, absolutely. When Christianity started, it was people gathering together wherever. It's just in Wales, you need a building, really, don't you? Because we're often so wet and cold.
Churches are so lovely, aren't they?
Yeah.
But is it a problem? Are you having fewer people coming into the ministry?
We're all right with people coming into the ministry at the moment. Obviously, we have fewer people coming to church because it's no longer the thing to do. Many people went to church because there wasn't anything more exciting to do, whereas now people who are there because they want to be there.
But of course, it takes money to run the churches,
It
doesn't
does
it?
take money,
You have these congregations. I see them in London when I go up. One church opposite where a friend of mine lives. I hear them referred to as happy clappy. Do we have a preponderance of happy clappy? Clappy? Perhaps you could explain.
Well, happy clappy is perhaps not a very nice term to talk about congregations who would use more modern worship and more taking part from the floor, as it were. But the brilliant thing about the Church in Wales, about the Anglican Church, is that we do have a whole range. And if you want to be very traditional and very high church, then we have churches where that's happening. If you want to be very relaxed and informal and using modern worship, we have churches where that's available. Because every person is different, and what speaks to one person isn't going to speak to somebody else. So I think it's good to have a diversity across a range of different worship styles. Yeah.
Well, if we get back to sort of the beginning, you're married to a vicar.
I am, yes. Hadrian's retired now.
Oh,
but,
right. So it's no
he's
business you being the boss. But did you meet in theological college?
We did, yes. At the time I was a Church in Wales ordinand, but unfortunately at the time the Church in Wales Theological College wouldn't accept me because I had a woman. Because I'm a woman, I have a letter from the then principal that said, "I'm afraid, Miss Penberthy, we haven't got a ladies' loo." So I had to go and train.
Really?
Yes, I'm afraid we haven't got a ladies' loo in St Michael's. So I had to go and train in England because there wasn't a ladies' loo at St Michael's in Llandaff.
Was that an excuse? Or
it was an excuse. It was an excuse.
That's extraordinary.
But it meant that I met my husband, so that
So
was
it was
brilliant.
worth
Yeah,
it.
was lovely.
But you've kept your maiden name.
I have, because I was adopted, and so my maiden name was very important to me. Yeah. So I can remember having my first bank card as a married woman, and it said Joanna Legg, and I always called myself Jo. I'm having to use Joanna at the moment, but I always call myself Jo. So who was this Joanna Legg when I called myself Jo Penberthy? So I said to Adrian, I'm not rejecting your name, darling, but do you mind if I go back to my maiden name?
Yeah. It wasn't a feminist stance. You hadn't already said.
No, I am a feminist, but no, it wasn't a feminist stance. Actually, it was just I felt very
way.
grateful to my parents for giving me the name, and it's such a lovely name.
Yeah, of course it is. Yes. And you've obviously brought your children up in a Christian household. Have any of them followed you into the ministry?
No, none of them have followed me into the ministry.
But they've remained Christians?
My eldest daughter is and her husband are practising Christians. The others I don't know that would go to church very often, although they do come when they come home. But they all think that trying to live a good life and putting something into the community and living by Christian values is important. Yeah.
It's often more the way for the younger people. Isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Is the quality of people you attract, Bishop, do you see that improving, or has it declined, or what over the years?
Just quite quickly, if
I
you
think
will.
the people I
It's a
meet
big
day to day
question.
in churches are wonderful, all of them, and always have been, yeah.
And led by wonderful people too. Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you.
and Robert too. And thank you to all our guests today, and for viewers watching us, especially those who tuned in for our Talking Pictures afternoon matinee, which is coming up next on Bay.
Today it's the 1936 drama The Plough and the Star, starring Barbara Stanwyck.
And with that, let's hear some more from Georgia May.
Baby, can't you see I'm calling? A guy like you should wear a warning. It's dangerous, I'm falling. There's no escape, I can't wait. I need a hit, oh baby, give me it. You're dangerous, I'm loving it. Too high, can't come down. Losing my head, spinning round and round. Do you feel me now? With a taste of your lips, I'm on a ride. You're toxic, I'm slipping under. Taste of a poison paradise. I'm addicted to you, don't you know that you're toxic? It's getting late to give you up. I took a sip from my devil's cup. Slowly it's taking over me. Too high, can't come down. It's in the air and it's all around. Can you feel me now? With a taste of your lips, I'm on a ride. You're toxic, I'm sipping under. Taste of a poison paradise. addicted to. Don't you know that you're toxic? And I love what you do. Don't you know that you're toxic?